Welcome to the new RiverCityGamers Podcast, hosted by SCXCR and Well Unreal 007, as well as many other members from the RiverCityGamers website. Stay tuned for all the gaming news, new pickups, and everything else we feel like talking about on the RiverCityGamers Podcast.
Hello, welcome to RiverCityGamers Podcast. I'm SCXCR.
I am Unreal.
I'm Blondeguygamer, and apparently this is turning into a Tim Burton movie or something with a musical number.
How dare you?
What?
Because
It's
the
not.
podcast is back from the dead.
Oh, right.
In fact, it's been so long I can't remember what we do next.
Gaming news?
No, that's not it.
What is next then?
Wait,
Viewer
I got
questions.
I got it. I remember what's next. That was the RiverCityGamers Podcast. Once again, I'm SCXCR.
I'm Unreal.
Well, it was a nice return while it lasted. See you guys.
Gaming news.
Gaming news! So real.
Told you.
So a lot has happened since our last podcast, and we're just going to ignore all of it.
Oh, look, the Switch is out, and it's, okay, next.
It was Zelda.
Yeah, the Switch came out and it had a massive effect on the gaming market. Speaking of Mass Effect,
Well.
EA is finally going to put in a patch to fix the quote-unquote tired eyes of some of the people in the game.
Said patch is already out, because I know, as I'm currently playing Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast.
Well, is it at least an actual improvement?
I don't know, I'm way past the point where I saw it in the videos for comparisons, so I don't know.
I mean, at the very least, they did it. I know people were complaining about the character models and stuff, especially like the eyes and such, from what I've heard. So, at least there's that.
All I know is that in this game, I'm at the point where I'm just no longer intentionally avoiding booting the game up. So now, at least I'm kind of into it, but that's about it.
Well, a lot of people had theories for what exactly caused that in the first place. One person who worked on Uncharted, among other people, guessed that there was some kind of battle algorithm within the game. So when you screwed that one thing up, it had like a domino effect and affected a bunch of other facial animations as well.
Yeah, programming, I guess, can do that.
And now we move on to, well, frankly, better news. And it involves Japan mainly. Well, actually, Japan made games, because the West played a part in this as well. Nier Automata has shipped over 1 million units.
And
No
that
one
is
cares.
good news. No, that is good news,
No,
considering how Yoko Taro's previous games have fared. So this is good news.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it, the game, so.
Yep, and in the process, Square Enix said that they're going to continue backing the Switch. In fact, they have a Sega Densetsu collection coming out later this year in Japan. Please bring it west.
Be good for your retrospective, too.
Make that a
Do you
hell of a lot
think?
easier.
Do you think they're actually going to go through the effort of translating the
There's a
third
fan
game?
translation.
I don't think
Yeah,
they can
but-
legally use that though. If you think
Yeah, that-
about it, I feel
yeah,
like
this is-
that's been an issue.
Yeah, this is like a Mother 3 thing, pretty much.
You have to WCW it. You just take the fan translation, change a couple words around, and it's different.
So what you're saying is, when you get to the character select screen, you'll just see like the fucking version number whatever, like in the corner, and like whoever translated that shit just stay there without taking that out because it looks weird. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I'm probably wording this really weird, but it's super glaring when you just like play the translated version. It's just like, oh, look at this corner with the credits and shit. Like, I get it, but it's really jarring.
And there was an interview recently in Nikkei where they were asked, with the new Xbox One coming out, Scorpio is it called?
Yeah.
And Windows 10 updates and some other new platforms, what system would have priority? Square Enix said the Switch.
Well, the Switch would sell a lot better than an Xbox or even Microsoft PCs in Japan anyway, so that doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, I'm just going to bookmark this for in case things change in the future. I realize that's
Okay.
more so something you would do with like EA or Ubisoft. but doesn't hurt. And speaking of Japanese games that have shipped a whole lot of units, Persona 5.
Yeah, that just came out.
Yeah, it just came out. It's already shipped over 1.5 million copies.
Wow. People like their Personas. I have the first 2 on PSP, but I haven't played them yet, so I don't know if I'll ever catch up to it.
They like it so much that you're not allowed to stream or YouTube ever.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, the people at Atlas have, I'm putting big air quotes around this, kindly requested that people not stream or post videos of the game beyond the in-game July 7th date. Because spoilers.
Like I get not wanting to spoil shit, especially since this game was originally supposed to be winter 2014 for PlayStation 3. And yeah, I guess it's a long wait for like Persona fans, but if you want to avoid spoilers, you can just go on media blackout. You can literally just do that. And unfortunately, because of Atlas's like whole ruling, people are now revenge spoiling, as in spoiling on purpose, so it's not working.
Well, people were going to do that regardless.
But I feel like it's more abundant in this case, because Atlas made a big deal out of the whole restrictions. I mean, there are obviously going to be assholes regardless, but I feel like because of this, it's now through like the floodgates more than ever.
Yeah, you say that they instigated the people being like, oh, well, if you
Instigated! Instigated! Line.
I assume that's a reference to something.
It is. It's not a reference I want to talk about.
Okay, but yeah, it's something that was going to happen regardless, but because they went ahead and did this, and they made a rule saying, hey, you can't do it, and people were just like, oh yeah, well, F you. But I can see what they were trying to do. They want people to experience the games for themselves, obviously. Because, you know, this is a big title for Atlas and all that, but I don't know if this would really hurt or affect their PR in a way, in at least in terms of like the video community, in terms of like I imagine a lot of people are really bitter. They're like, well, why can't we? It's like, oh, well, now we can't stream this and, you know, share this experience with our people, you know, or post videos about them. Because, you know, a lot of content creators that do that stuff, you know, they're not just doing it just to show off the game. They're showing their experiences. They're sharing their experiences with everyone. So they obviously feel kind of gypped out for doing that. I mean, it is a pretty strict rule to kind of do that in the first place, but I mean, what can you do? It's pretty much their call.
Well, you know what, guys? I got a spoiler for you.
Uh-oh.
It's a Star Fox spoiler.
Star Fox?
Is it canceled?
Oh, come on.
No, it's that the in-game characters were based on people from the dev team.
I think I heard of that before.
Is this like original Star Fox or just general Star Fox?
Just general Star Fox. Because one of the programmers from the first Star Fox did an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit, and people were asking him questions about Star Fox. And there was somebody who asked whether or not the people who played the lead characters, Slippy, Peppy, Fox, Falco, were based, at least in part, on people who were working on the game. And he responded, Slippy was based on Yoichi Yamada for sure. And then Falco was Tsuyoshi Watanabe or Giles Goddard. And Fox was Shigeru Miyamoto or himself. I know this isn't...
I mean, I guess...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, I guess it makes that one E3 make more sense that Miyamoto becomes a furry.
Yeah, I was about to mention that, the part with the puppets and become Star Fox characters. Yeah, I guess that comes full circle.
I know this isn't the only time that video game characters have been based on people from the development team, but I can't remember any off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure there were some rare games that were like that. Wait, I think, yeah, it was Conker's Bad Fur Day, the scarecrow that you meet in the beginning of the game.
Right.
He says stuff like, or Conker misheard him as Beardy, even though his name was Birdie. And Beardy was actually a nickname of one of the developers on the team, I believe. And the Scarecrow also ask Conquer if he has any Mexi packs, which is them getting around saying Pepsi Max, which apparently this guy drank a lot of at the time. So there's that. Can't think of anything else.
We're not counting Perfect Dark and GoldenEye, where they just plaster death faces onto the enemies.
And we shall conclude gaming news in the most unlikely of places. The University of Utah.
Okay, well, what's over there?
School.
Yeah,
Well,
and sports.
Okay, I won't be so general to ask that. What gaming news has been there?
Well, up until this point, esports has appeared at colleges, but not quite like this. Because the University of Utah is going to be the first, prominent sports school that will offer scholarships for esports.
Oh, interesting.
And apparently, according to a Bloomberg report, the first game that it's going to try its hand at, of course, League of Legends.
Well, I mean, it is the most prominent, one of the most prominent esports games out there, so of course it is. So there's no real surprise there.
One of the first, but also one of the worst. No, it's not one of the first. It's probably Counter-Strike is one of the first, honestly.
Or StarCraft.
Yes, StarCraft also. Just say, insert Blizzard here. No Lost Vikings esports.
Well, that's not a competitive game to begin with, so...
You can speedrun it, that's competitive. Oh no, I don't even want to give him ideas.
Spearrun Blackthorn, too, while we're at it.
Oh jeez, I wonder how that would actually go.
Well, feel free to think about that as we bring gaming news to a close and head into upcoming releases.
Such as
you...
Gyo?
Lay... Who's Lee?
One Naruto guy. But yeah, speaking of ukulele,
well, yeah.
I think they started shipping physical copies and stuff on the 5th. Still haven't gotten mine yet, but they said it will be it should be here before actual release day. And I don't think they've shipped the digital codes yet. They said we're gonna do that later in the week.
No, not yet. I mean, I still haven't gotten mine, so as of this podcast recording anyway.
I'm wondering where they shipped from. I'm assuming the UK, although that'd be I don't know, because they said you'll get your physical copies as early as the 5th, and I'm like, wait, what? Shit, some people are gonna have that shit early that aren't review copies.
You might have it before I do.
Yeah, I might have it early, but I don't know. Still not here yet.
See.
It'll probably be here on the 11th. I don't know. I don't even know if it's UPS or just postal shit. I don't know.
But yeah, that's definitely a game I'm at least looking forward to at least trying out and playing it because, Banjo-Kazooie style game, spiritual successor.
I've noticed it's been getting mixed response.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess mixed is better than negative. And of course, I'm comparing to Mighty Number 9 that ended up getting less mixed and more negative.
Yeah,
side of the scale, where here it's just kind of teetering in the Killer 7 middle, as I call it. Where it's either you're gonna like this or you're gonna fucking football kick it.
Oh, so Star Fox Zero as well.
Oh man, that is hard on the Killer 7 scale of fucking tilting, man.
I'm gonna steal that scale for my videos.
I give this a Killer 7 out of 10.
Wow.
No, not the number 7.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, this is just me kind of speculating, but I have a feeling that some people that reviewed it probably weren't super into Banjo-Kazooie or that kind of 3D collectathon platformers type of thing.
But
so...
I've also heard that there are actual issues like a not good camera and some bugs.
Most of the bugs I've heard were from the Xbox One version in particular.
Yeah. And honestly...
Was that the only thing that got review copied? Was the Xbox One version the only one people got access to? Because
no, I imagine I think people got Steam versions too. I think. I'm not sure, but yeah. But even if it has a bit of a janky camera, I don't think it's going to bother me much because I'm kind of used to that in some games. As weird of an excuse that sounds, like I imagine still could be way better than like say, like actual bad Banjo-Kazooie clones I played, like Earthworm Jim 3D. Like that had a pretty bad camera and just wasn't a very good game at all, really. And even then, like some games that have a camera that can be just a little bit frustrating and doesn't really fully impact how much I still enjoy the game. Like for example,
Monster Hunter.
Well, I guess there's that.
Well,
but,
earlier Monster Hunters. I'll be fair.
But-
I've played like some of the other ones. Not good.
a recent example I can think of is The Last Guardian, because while I did enjoy the game, that camera can get a little funky sometimes, but I still enjoyed it overall. But we'll see.
What else is coming out?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Unreal, because later this month, the re-release of the Silver Case is hitting PS4.
Is that already on PC?
What exactly is the Silver Case?
It's as far as I know, it's an old Suda game. One that was, I think, originally Japan only. So this is actually kind of a...
It was a crime drama game. This was before, like, Killer 7 and No More Heroes and all that shit.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I meant by early.
Like, original PlayStation.
Oh,
And
okay.
Japan only.
Yeah. Like most of Suda's early works anyway.
So when do we get a HD version of Michigan with the voice acting intact?
I'm pushing forward for E3.
Dude, I would laugh. That would be the best E3 in years if that ever happened. Just Sony conference and you just fucking see Michigan down.
No, wait. But it starts to show like a reveal for like gameplay of like No More Heroes 3, but then it just switches to that instead. By the way, when's the next part of Michigan, you guys?
20XX. Moving on.
Yeah, good.
Some years Mega Man, right?
Oh, I
Maybe
forgot-
we'll just finish it in bulk when I go to his house or something.
I forgot Dragon Quest Heroes 2 was happening.
Oh yeah.
I forgot Dragon Quest Heroes 1 happened.
Yeah, that did
Yeah.
happen, especially with 1 and 2 on Switch.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be bundled on the Switch, so...
I think it's already out in Japan.
But yeah, I mean, if you haven't played the first one, people are probably gonna wait on that, so at least you get both of them in one, you know, so...
I also heard like the Switch versions of that did not run well either.
Eh.
Ugh.
But then again, it's like it's a Muso type game, so...
Shit, Square Enix, come on.
Well, there's going to be a lot going on screen anyway, so, I mean, performance issues might happen regardless.
Well, never fear, because April 25th, Siberia 3 is here.
Okay,
I feel like I've heard of that, but don't care enough.
I'm not really familiar with the Siberia games.
Neither am I. Is there a 1 and 2, or were they just going for style points by
I'm
calling it 3?
pretty sure there is a 1 and 2.
Pretty sure. Are they like adventure games or something?
Is this PC only?
No.
No? I think they were like downloadable titles or something.
We're 1 and 2 PC only.
We have to solve the mystery of these games we never heard of.
Contains steampunk elements. Well, that's helpful. Oh, geez, the first Siberia game came out in like 2002.
Christ.
Okay,
This is a slow-burning series.
apparently.
Either way, it seems like a more dramatic, less horror-themed Cold Mountain. Anyway. Oh, right. Beginning of May, Prey.
Oh yeah, that actually looks kind of cool.
I'm thinking about renting that if I do finish up Mass Effect Andromeda in time. Either that or try and play Horizon, but that's where I'm at right now.
You know, it's kind of funny how different it is compared to the first Prey, and how this next game in the series evolved from a basically what was a canceled version of Prey 2 into this.
Speaking of Prey 2, I know this may sound like a brief sidetracking, but there is like an area in Andromeda where I saw like this like world and shit, like this town, and I'm like, fuck, why did Prey 2 get canceled? Because it looked exactly like it, you know, and I just got mad again. New Prey seems fine, but it's just one of those feelings where it's like, man, that would have been cool, or it could have been really bad, but it would have been really cool.
It'd be an alternate universe that existed. But it is kind of funny how this new Prey came out, and I actually finally played through the first Prey not too long ago, and it still holds up decently well.
I was thinking about replaying it, but I'm like, nah, I've got too many other games, and I've already had my fair share of easiest FPS, so...
And that's all we can really talk about for upcoming releases, unless you want to talk about some re-releases.
There's already plenty of that these days.
Can you name it, like, maybe 2, if there's, like, more than that?
No, because I already closed the window.
Okay. I don't even know what else is coming out.
Instead, let's just talk about stuff we recently played. We haven't played anything. Okay, moving on.
Oh, for fuck.
Either of you can start, I don't care.
I guess I'll start. One of the games I've started playing recently was something that I've actually had in my DS library for a fair amount of time, and I finally decided to pick up and play it. And that's Henry Hatsworth in the Puzzling Adventure. Now, what this game is, it's basically a hybrid of an action side-scroller platformer with a puzzle game element, kind of like in Tetris Attack. So you play as Henry Hatsworth, who is this, stereotypically posh English gentleman type of person who's going around and collecting pieces of, I'm not kidding, the gentleman's suit, which is, it's supposedly this all-powerful suit that you can rule the world with, type of thing, and is like connected to a parallel world of the puzzle realm, which is where all these blocks and stuff come from. At least that's the game's excuse of like where they all come from and why you play a puzzle game at the same time, basically. So you play as Henry and he goes around the world to find these pieces of the gentleman's suit, which actually gives him power. Like, for example, one piece that you find pretty early on lets you slide along the walls and jump up like in Mega Man X. So that's actually kind of cool. You play through several stages, and then there's bosses at the end of the world type of game. And how it plays out is that you play as Henry in a standard side scroller, and you can attack enemies with a basic melee attack. You can shoot enemies with a gun, and you have a few other little attacks, but it's nothing like too complex or anything. And you can press a button once you filled up a meter to switch to a puzzle mode, because you have these blocks that take up the bottom screen, and enemies that you defeat and any items you collect go down into blocks of the bottom screen, and then you have to line up 3 of the same colors to get rid of them and collect the power-ups, or use the power-ups essentially. So it's all about managing both the platforming and the puzzle elements at the same time. Admittedly, it does take a little while to get used to that type of thing, especially when you're like trying to manage not getting hit by enemies, because it is a bit of a classic style game in that it's actually fairly easy to die if you're caught off guard type of thing. So it is like a retro style game in that sense. But so far it's actually a pretty funny, charming game in terms of like its story and presentation. Like, for example, we mentioned Yooka-Laylee and Banjo-Kazooie earlier, but this is another game that actually has that type of thing where, in the characters' text boxes, they made like sound bites during them, and it's actually pretty funny. Because that caught me off guard, because I didn't realize it was doing that same thing that Banjo-Kazooie games do, where it's like, especially with Henry Hatsworth, it's like good show and all that, all that stuff. There's also stuff that you can get like when you fully power like a meter you build up by doing the puzzles, you can actually pilot like this giant steampunk robot, and it's basically your invincible mode. The only problem with that is that I encountered a problem where it's like I turned into the robot, but then I couldn't progress because it's like an area that you needed to be smaller to get through. So level design not exactly catering to that mode all the time. the game does follow a pretty formulaic platforming level set where it's like you just go through a stage, fight enemies along the way. Sometimes you'll encounter like an onslaught of enemies that you have to like kill and then get rid of the enemy blocks on the bottom screen, because if you don't get rid of the enemy blocks, they'll scroll up and then when they enter the top screen, those blocks will attack you. So that's why you got to get rid of them. But the pixel art's good. The music is pretty catchy and has that, that it's kind of going for like this old British gentleman style, and it's pretty funny. So far, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a pretty interesting DS game that I say utilizes the dual screen aspect pretty well as like combining two different types of gameplays into one pretty well. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about it.
All I can really say is that every time you say the character's name, I just keep imagining Haddington from Battleblock Theater.
Henry Haddington Hatsworth.
Yeah, I guess there's that, even though that came out after this game, I believe. And then the other game that I've actually played, that I actually started playing today, which was a Wii U game that I've been looking for quite a while. And that's actually The Wonderful 101, which is a platinum game for the Wii U that I've been wanting to get, and now I finally found it, basically. This one is also an interesting game, but I've had a little bit of a harder time getting into it than Henry Hatsworth. And I'll explain, because I've only played like the first, I guess you could say, mission of the game so far. Basically, you play as these characters that transform into these like basically superhero type characters who protect the Earth from an alien invasion. And if you played games like Okami or Viewtiful Joe, you'll definitely see a lot of similarities here. And the gameplay is definitely something that's both familiar of Platinum games while doing a bunch of different things. Because the best way I can describe it, it's like a third-person action game, kind of like Bayonetta, combined with like a Pikmin game. As weird as that sounds, because this whole time you're like controlling these group of heroes, and one of the main gameplay elements is using the right stick to draw lines with your heroes, and that actually is how you're able to do different attacks. Like for example, you draw a straight line, and that creates a sword that you can use to attack enemies. You draw a circle, that's your fist, and you draw like an L shape, and that's using your gun to shoot, enemies. Admittedly, I had a bit of a hard time getting into it, because I played this game on the normal difficulty setting, and that was actually kind of a bit demanding, because it is a platinum game, it is challenging, but I was having a bit of a hard time dealing with some enemies, because it is very easy to get overwhelmed and with all the stuff going around, and it's hard to keep track of all your heroes in some spots of the game. And dealing with some enemies definitely has a learning curve to it, I'll just say that much. But once you get past that, once you learn the game, there is definitely a lot of the core qualities that you're used to in Platinum games. Over-the-top bosses and the humor that is associated with most Platinum games. So far I am enjoying this. It's just going to take me a bit while to get used to, type of thing. It's a very over-the-top game that is fun. It's just pretty demanding in how you play it, especially if you just play it on a normal difficulty setting. Because you can play on the user settings, and I don't think there's really any shame of that, because just playing this on normal, I am struggling a bit. I'll just say that. There is a ranking system, kind of like in Bayonetta, where it's if you do good, you get the higher medal rankings, but if you don't do good, well, you just get this little consolation prize, and it's just oh, well. But then again, that's kind of like the mentality of Platinum games. It's you need to get good in order to get good ranks. So
I do want to say the most I played was the demo.
Oh yeah, that
I can't really find a copy. Yeah, I don't want to say rough as the term, but it does seem rough.
It is a bit.
In terms of learning curve, it's just I couldn't get it down in the time I had with it. I'm still gonna try and find the game, and maybe if I could sit down and deal with it, it's sure, but man, I'll just say as for comparison, Bayonetta 1 and 2 were just much better to jump in on normal.
They are.
And I feel like it's because of how this game handles, because it's not exactly a character action game, and since you have to like change your powers with like the right analog stick or the touchpad, people have preferred the right analog stick, but it's still kind of weird.
I have used that in, yeah.
Really, I don't know.
I mean, it is a bit of a rough patch to get through, but I think once you really get used to it, I imagine it can be fun to do.
Yeah, a lot of people say that like once it clicks, it's good, but it's just like, but if it doesn't click, then you're gonna have to bail because sometimes shit might not click.
Like I've mostly been having trouble with like certain enemies that you have to like try and get around or like counter or things like that, and you have to have like really good timing to avoid enemy attacks, and you have to do certain things. Like, and the game doesn't really teach you everything, and trying to use your heroes in that line system is a bit tricky because sometimes it's hard to see where you are. But it is kind of like a weird game where it like combines like Bayonetta and Viewable Joe and even little bits of like Okami and basically Pikmin, because you have to because basically you can get your teammates to attack enemies, but that pretty much stuns them, or at least locks them into place, and you can stun bigger enemies by doing that, and that's like how you attack them basically. But even then, even when I knew what to do, it's just executing it is a little tricky, and it can get frustrating. But I'm slowly getting past that part where it's like, okay, this is what I need to do, this is how I do it. And then I got to the first major boss, and that was actually really fun to play through. So it's just something you really need to just overcome, especially if you're playing on just the normal difficulty setting, which I guess is kind of like the hard difficulty when you're first starting out. So, go figure. That's all I really have to say about the game, and even for a 2013 Wii U game, I wouldn't say it's like the best looking game, but it definitely has it's definitely a very stylized game. So, and the music is super catchy because of course it is, because it's platinum, and it actually does utilize the Wii U in some capacity, at least in terms of the gamepad, because there actually were a couple moments where I went into a building, you have to solve some puzzles elements by looking down your characters that you control in the building on your Wii U gamepad, and then you look at the TV and see something that you need to do in the building in order to interact with something that you see on the TV, basically. So, for a pretty early Wii U game, it definitely does utilize that aspect, I think, pretty well in a neat way. So overall, yeah, I am glad to get this game, to add this to my Platinum Games collection, basically. It's just, it definitely has a steep learning curve to get past. And that should be it for my game, so either of you can go next.
I'll go next, because this isn't going to take very long. So, rather than talk about nothing, there's a game that I haven't played very much of, but I might as well talk a little bit about it, because I did the training for it, I've played online with it a little bit. It's the recently released game Drawn to Death on PS4. So for those of you not familiar with this, it's an online game where you're fighting against each other from a third-person shooter perspective. But the catch is in the title, because the game takes place entirely within the notebook of an incredibly bored high schooler. Because the moment you start up the game, you get an FMV of this kid's perspective, just sitting in class listening to this teacher drone on.
Oh, is it like live action and everything?
Yeah, it's a live action video. And the moment you hit a button, you look down at your notebook and you can get into the game.
Huh.
I've heard there aren't a lot of people playing this, which is kind of sad, but so far I haven't noticed the same people showing up in matches over and over. Of course, I haven't played it that much yet, so anyway, it's a little limiting in that there are only 6 characters you can play as, but I think they may have done that just to make sure that the game was balanced and that they played off of each other well enough to have a cohesive setting. I'll just give you an example of some of the characters, because they do get kind of creative later on. Like, the one I played as most of the time is this guy named Johnny Savage. Basically think like Johnny Napalm from Guitar Hero. Shirtless, covered in tattoos, spiked mohawk, carries around a guitar. The other character that I tried out for a little bit was called Ninja, who is a female ninja who is also a great white shark.
Oh.
And they go to a surprising amount of detail with some of the backstories. Like, there were two characters, Bronco and Alan, who are kind of related to each other. As far as in-game combat goes, I've heard people complain that jumping is kind of floaty. You can double jump in this game, and there are a bunch of aerial attacks tied to it, which is why I think it's so floaty. Also, one of the characters, Cyborgula, can fly, so it's going to be kind of floaty regardless. I actually find the jumping is kind of similar to like the early Halo games in terms of like level of floatiness.
Or just Halo in general, really.
Well, I've only played the early one, so I can only say from that.
Well, I can tell you at least from like that I've played the Halo games because Halo Wars, like even 4 was like floaty as far as I can remember. So, but anyway, keep going with Drawn to Life.
Drawn to Death.
Sorry, Drawn to Death. Drawn to Life is like wait, that's a TV show, isn't it?
No, Drawn to Life is another game, I think.
I'm getting confused. Just keep going with your game.
Each person has like several different ways they can attack. Obviously there are guns, but a bunch of people have special attacks that they can do. Like Johnny Savage, for example, he has this move called Devil's Riff, which if you've ever played the Twisted Metal games and played as Shadow and used his special, it works exactly the same way. Kind of funny considering Jaffe, who worked on this game, also worked on Twisted Metal. Which, by the way, when you get to the main menu of the game, there's a fake quiz on the left side, and under name it says Needles Cane, and it's hastily crossed out. So he's very self-aware of like his past, and he like throws references into it throughout the game. But there's that. There's a move called Headbanger, which like you try to trap people in this enclosure, and then their heads explode if you finish your riff. But every character's not quite played the same. Like Johnny Savage also has like a dive kick that he can do. So you don't really want to like be up close the entire time with this guy. You'll like hit and retreat and then do some attacks from a distance. Then there's a character called Alan, who how the hell do I explain this thing? Okay, let's just start with Leatherface as a base. Give him a mouse head, take away most of his clothes except for an apron, and make the chainsaw more badass, and you're kind of on the right track. He is way more melee-centric, and like all of his special attacks are tied to that. And then there's Diablo Tijuana, who's a gunslinger, so you're going to keep your distance more. But what I find interesting about this game is that all the characters are tied into each other, not just in terms of like storyline links, but also in terms of advantages against each other. Diablo Tijuana has some specific advantages that work against Johnny Savage, but Diablo Tijuana also has some weaknesses trying to fight against Alan. Like, Alan does more damage to Diablo Tijuana than anybody else. I might as well mention for Alan that his drawback is that, what's his name? Cyborgula. Alan has an ability where he can go invisible, and Cyborgula can just see right through that. And there are things like that for every single character, so it's this interesting little play where you're constantly paying attention to who exactly is on the other team, and who to maybe stay away from and focus on more. But I thought that I was going to get like really tripped up trying to just jump in and play this after the training, because it seems like there's a lot to do. You have like the shoulder buttons that can do different attacks, and also taunts that are tied to... Some of the taunts in this game are just cringe, because the game does not hold back on the vulgarity at all. In fact, throughout the training and like every loading screen, there's this frog who gives you tips. And how did one of them go? It was something like, for you I recommend masturbation. You'll be inside, away from the attractive people who won't have to see you. It's win-win.
Well then.
That's one of the more tame ones. Like I mentioned, there were like a bunch of different ways to attack, and a bunch of different button mappings and abilities for each character. Yeah, I jumped in my first match and I got the hang of it almost right away. I was not expecting that. So it's a surprisingly shallow learning curve in terms of getting used to the controls.
So the opposite of me with Wonderful 101.
Yeah, surprisingly so. I'm gonna keep playing it, but so far I'm enjoying what I've seen. I mean, I was initially drawn to it because of the art aesthetic, but I'm liking what I've experienced from the gameplay so far. And I think that's about all I can say for it.
But yeah, I do vaguely recall that game at like an E3 or something. I'm surprised it's out now, but
yeah, it seemed like it was taking a while.
Probably, and I don't think there's like a whole lot of buzz going around. That's probably why you said there weren't a ton of people playing it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's free on PlayStation Plus for the month, but it's just like,
That's precisely why I played it.
Maybe the rest of us could try it out, and maybe in RCG plays. Who knows?
I don't know if I want to play it, honestly.
But
Like I could always like add it to my library since it's free on PlayStation Plus. But like in terms of downloading and playing it, I don't know.
So you're going to Steam the game, is what you're saying?
Yeah, PlayStation Plus can do that if it's, you know, something. I mean, who knows? Maybe if Night in the Woods becomes a PlayStation Plus game, I might actually play it. Because even though that game's like $20 right now, I'm obviously saving money for, you know, the like.
I think I know part of what it is that, remember when David Jaffe was doing the lead-up videos with the Bartlett Jones Supernatural Detective Agency? The kind of weird, cryptic studio videos?
Yeah, no.
Well, there was some excitement building around that, and people thought that the name Bartlett Jones Supernatural Detective Agency was going to be the name of the game that they were working on, because they were doing this weird, pseudo-paranormal shit in their development studio, or the basement of their development studio, or just in the woods somewhere. But then he comes out and just says, "We're working on this game, Drawn to Death," and it's entirely different, and a bunch of people just went, "Oh," and just went about their day, and just kind of forgot about this.
Okay, maybe not the best way to promote your game.
But yeah, Drawn to Death. Gonna play it more. Maybe do a video on it at some point. Done.
Maybe I'll play it too if you need people to play with.
Well, I think they're in the middle of a server update, so I can't really play it tonight. Maybe over the weekend.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Okay, for real, done this time.
Okay. I played a lot of games between last podcast and whatever, but I'm only gonna like talk about the two recent I've completed.
Well, I'm forcing you to just talk about the two recent ones.
Well, that too.
A lot has came out in the past couple of months, so
that too. But I do. Fuck. So the word "interesting" isn't going to be the best thing to use because like the 4 games I've liked, but I do really want to talk about Nier Automata.
How about fascinating?
Fascinating. Well, Nier Automata is the most fascinating for a lot of reasons that I actually cannot talk about because that would just spoil a bunch of cool shit in the game.
By the way, Nier Automata made it into Summer Games Done Quick. Shoutouts to Half Coordinated.
Also, it's pronounced Automata. Believe me, I made the mistake early. It's not Automata, it's Automata.
Automatopoeia?
And I know because Yoko Taro, the director, advertising the pre-order t-shirt, always pronounced it as Nier Automata t-shirt. Nier Automata t-shirt. That's when I learned. And then he said shit Square Enix. Yeah, that video says a lot. Just look up Nier Automata t-shirt and you'll, like, see what I mean. It's a good video. But as for the game itself, I had not played the original Nier. I have the original Nier, but I have not played it. But I have spoiled myself on the whole game by watching an LP. And it's like, whatever. So with Automata, I went in pretty blind. All I knew going in was that Platinum Games was developing the combat, so the game wouldn't feel like hot garbage like Drakengard or any of those titles. And it is really good. Fantastic even. I will say, if you're going into this game experiencing platinum levels of combat, you'll be half right, because it's still really solid, but it is nowhere near as, say, complex or demanding as another platinum title like the Bayonetta games. Like, yeah, you get a lot of weapons. You get like 4 weapon types total, I think. Yeah, 4 weapon types total that you can like have as your light attack or heavy attack, and you can switch between it. But one thing I noticed is that the combat in this game is mimicking more the original Nier than its own platinum thing, if that makes sense. Because in the original Nier, you had like your light heavy attacks and stuff, as well as for more Vice, who is actually a magic book in that game, and you can basically like shoot people with that. And it's sort of like that here, which is funny because I looked at the instruction book for the original Nier and noticed that the controls are identical, except for the fact that I think one of the controls that got changed is the block button. You cannot block in this game, but instead you dodge, and you can perfect dodge like Bayonetta, which is really nice. It's sort of open world-ish as well, like not too super big, but it is also an RPG, so you do level up. There are quests to go on. The story is kind of batshit, but that's like, I think, one of the best parts. It's not my favorite part, because my favorite part of the game is the music, and even though it's only like April, it might be my OST of the year. It's really, really good. I really can't say much else, because that will just kind of delve into spoilers for Nier Automata. But I think it goes without saying this is Yoko Taro's best game, because it feels like a good game, while it also kept the good qualities from the previous games, as in like the batshit story and like the characters and I guess music for at least the original Nier. Drakengard wasn't so lucky, but now we have a competent game under his belt, and I'm glad that it hit like the million like shipped. Was it a million copies shipped or sold? What was it?
1 million shipped.
Even then, that's still pretty good. I will say, if you're new, I'm pretty sure you could jump right into Automata just fine. Like, you'll miss, obviously, a lot of stuff, but it's still pretty good standalone. I definitely encourage people to try this game out. It's, music's so good, though. I can't stress that enough.
Well, I've definitely heard good things about it. I'll definitely keep that game in mind. Especially since, Platinum worked on it, and, I talked about it for 101, so, that's kind of a given at this point.
It's also not one of the... well, I guess in some instances, like, it's not the hardest Platinum game, like, nowhere near. And I played on normal. There's hard and very hard. Hard obviously ups the damage output, so it'll get ridiculous, I guess, then. And very hard, you die in one hit. So it's really one of the cases where you can have a stick jammed up your ass if you really want to.
Yeah, I'm not really into that.
Fisting artists, that's not my scene. A quote from
I'll
Yakuza
stick
Zero.
I'll stick with the fisting one for 101, because that's one of your attacks. Well, the punch. Anyway,
It's Unite
the
Fist.
Unite Fist, yeah.
Wait, was it Unite
But-
Punch or Fist?
Unite Hand or something. But I don't think it's
Hand?
actually...
Was it really hand? That seems lame in comparison.
I forget, even though I just played it. I'm now getting
I forget
confused.
too. I know, like, whatever.
And I'm pretty sure there's no actual fisting. Let's get away from that topic.
Alright, the next game I do want to talk about, I almost never talk about PC games because my laptop cannot PC good. But there is an exception because I can actually sort of run this, and I was able to beat said game. The Turok 2 remaster came out, and this was the first time I legitimately beat Turok 2 in any capacity.
Yeah, I actually got the remaster too, but I haven't finished it yet.
But like, it was cool. going back to Turok 2, and like I've never beaten it on N64. I never really motivated myself to. I mean, I did like do bosses and shit while cheating, obviously, but in terms of just like a actual real playthrough, exploring the levels and doing all the objectives and keys, not once until I played the remaster. And just like Turok 1, it's probably going to be really hard to go back to N64 after this.
Yeah, I think most people would rather just play the remasters at this point.
Sort of like Turok 1, Night Dive did change a couple of things. Although, in this case, I don't think it was as noticeable in some instances as it was with Turok 1. Like in Turok 1, in the first stage, you can't get like the super shotgun early anymore by climbing the secret wall. They replaced that area with an entirely different area, and I'm like, okay, that's not what it was like on N64. I didn't notice that much in Turok 2. So it's going to be really hard comparison. One thing I did notice is in the first level, there is, they moved the position of an ultra health to where you don't have to do a platform jump, which is a relatively easy platform jump to do. But instead, they just block that off with a gate and just give you the ultra health there so you don't have to go out and do the jumping. And I'm like, I don't know why that was changed. It wasn't really necessary. It's just weird little things like that.
Well, I mean, there probably were some tweaks here and there, probably just to maybe balance it a little bit. I don't know.
And I did hear they modified enemy behavior. But again, like this is gonna be something I'm gonna have to actually see if someone will compare side by side, because I sure as hell am not doing that, because that's just gonna take too much time and effort. One big change that is entirely optional, you just go into the options and turn it off if you want, is the hint system, where the game just plasters when you're near the vicinity of like an item, like a key or say an objective thing, there'll be a giant exclamation mark on your screen and shit. And when you're in the hub world, there's like a billion fucking like exclamation marks on put key here, for example. You could turn that off, but I will say for certain levels, initially I'm just like, I'll have it off, but then later on it's just like, okay, I kind of need them on because you can get really lost in this game. And once you get to Lair of the Blind Ones, oh man, you realize that that's some bad level design. That's really bad level design.
Well, old level design, I assume.
Yeah, but it's pretty bad. Like that level in particular was the one where I'm just missing like one thing, and I had to go back, use my smartphone, find a guide. I'm like, what am I missing? And then it's like, oh, okay, I found the location of the thing. I need a key to get in here. Fuck. So I had to go all around, figure out where this key was, and it was in this ledge area, and I didn't know how to get to, and I figured out how to get up there on my own, but oh man, that level sucks. Like, that lives up to the hype of being terrible. Like, as far as I know, everyone agrees that Lair of the Blind Ones is absolute trash.
I look forward to that when I get to the game.
Yeah, the level right after that was better, but it's also where I noticed where said hint system just started to not work right. Because there's like 2 doors you have to blow up, and throughout most of the level, like, the game does like highlight the doors that you can kind of blow up, or you can guess via like the map, which is still pretty helpful. I'd say even mandatory in this game. But there's just like 2 doors that like I tried shooting them and I'm like, okay, nothing's happening. Maybe it's just like, according to the map, a different elevation I have to get to. No, you actually just have to blow those up. I got lost in Hive of the Mantis as well, but it was overall slightly better than, say, Lair. And Primogen's Lightship is actually a good level, but good as in you don't get lost, but bad as in it's super fucking linear, if that makes sense. Maybe as a kid I would have been able to beat Primogen's Lightship without getting lost, because it really is straightforward. I was like, wait, really? You just... wow. It's like nothing like the rest of the game, or even the past 2 levels. And I will say that's like my only problem with, not really with the remaster, but I guess just Turok 2 as a whole. Is like, man, there's like some okay levels, but there's like 1.5 that stand out as not great. The shooting is still good. It feels really nice on PC, even though I'm not running at the best settings. Like, it runs better than it did on N64 for my laptop, but obviously not the super optimal way to do it as well. Don't have to worry about fog in this version, just like Turok 1. What's cool is you can actually switch between the soundtrack between N64 and the original PC version. Because like Turok 1, there was an original PC release before the remaster, but that was like years back.
Yeah.
And apparently those ports were not good, so this is obviously the best PC version as well as, I guess, the best version of the games. And I did play a bit of multiplayer. It's obviously unbalanced, and that's fine by me, and I guess depending on how many people like are in a map, it gets really chaotic / my laptop cannot handle when there's a bunch of people sometimes. I do want to say the netcode is not great though. I tested this with a friend, and it seems like if you're host, your connection's perfect. Join someone else, there's a high chance it's not gonna be good latency wise. And I really hope they adjust that a bit, because multiplayer is like chaotic fun for the hell of it, but it stops being fun once you realize that the net issues are really an issue with that, unless you're hosting. Like, Turok 2 offers more overall as well, like, aside from getting lost. Like, I compared my start to finish playtime with Turok 1 on Steam, said like 4 hours. Turok 2, 11 hours.
Well, that's because you have to do more stuff and you have to backtrack for some things.
Yeah, there's way more stuff. There's backtracking, there's getting fucking lost in Lair of the Blind Ones, and there is the multiplayer option. And I guess some of that time is also me just fucking with the settings so it wouldn't run like worse than N64 on my laptop.
Well, at the very least, it's still good that, you know, even with these fancy remasters, you don't need a super powerful computer to run them, because, you know, there are obviously ports of N64 or old PC games. So
I really do hope, although it seems unlikely, if Night Dive does Rage Wars and even Turok 3, that'd be cool. But I'm saying that's unlikely because unlike Turok 1 and 2, those two games did not get PC versions. So
yeah, that might be.
I'm pretty sure Night Dive like combined assets from both, and if you just have N64 and try to do the PC, that may be way more difficult.
Yeah, it'd be a bit of a trickier conversion, I imagine.
If they do it, cool, but I'm not holding my breath because it seems kind of impossible unless they pull some wizard magic out of their ass. But yeah, I honestly don't think Turok 2's worth 20. I may be sounding a little, you know, penny pinching here, but 15 seems fine.
Well, I mean, with how often Steam has sales, chances are you'll find it there on sale. So
yeah, honestly, Turok 1 is still overpriced in comparison to, say, Turok 2, though, content-wise. But, price aside, both remasters are nice. Actually, you know what Night Dive should do? Make Turok Evolution, but good. Like, that's the subtitle. Turok Evolution, but good.
Well, I think that's what remaster is supposed to imply with most stuff, but yeah. Well,
no, if you just remaster Evolution, it's still going to be pretty bad. It's like, redo the whole game.
Who knows if they'll even do that.
No, they're doing System Shock stuff.
Well, yeah, because that got kickstarted.
That's it for me.
All right, well, before we get into the discussion, I would just like to start with a life lesson. Don't debate a person with an English degree about how to pronounce certain words. Because
Are you jabbing at me?
I can verify it is automata. Derived from the Greek and Latin word automaton.
Yeah, that would make sense because the main character is like an android, right?
Man, is Japan just not good at that or something?
Well, I think it's a case of like
Japanese learning English as a second language.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Japanese pronunciation versus English pronunciation, I think, really.
Also, you saying that word just reminds me of that fucking one Phalus review, Automaton Transfusion. Fucking old-ass video.
I know that's incredibly nitpicky of me to bring up, but it bugs me.
I know. Now I feel bad. Can I just retire the rest of the podcast to you guys?
No, because you're going to want to be in on this discussion topic.
Do I? What is it? Fucking lay it down on me.
Alright, I'm going to lay it down in one word. Well, technically two, depending on how you spell it. Gearbox.
I'm out. No.
Oh, what did they do now?
Real, you want to explain this or should I?
Wait a minute. Is this what I think it is? I may have seen this article, but I don't know if it's the one you're talking about for the discussion. Say a little bit of it. I want to be sure.
So, Gearbox has a Bulletstorm launch on Steam. And
Okay.
to do this, they were going to have keys distributed through a company called G2A.
Okay, I did see this.
For those of you not familiar, G2A is becoming quite infamous for selling keys that were given to them by people who acquired them through not so ethical means. Or legal means, I should say.
Oh, so it's kind of shady? Shady?
Yeah, so then what happens is a person gets a stolen credit card, buys up a bunch of keys for a game, sells them to G2A, and then does a chargeback on the credit card.
Oh.
So as a result, the developer ends up losing money, but the person who sold the keys and G2A keep their money. And
Oh, so it's like a...
No, and Gearbox partnered with them to release a game.
Were they just not, like, fully aware, or...
How could they not
of
be fully aware?
These are the guys who made Alien Colon Marines. I mean...
Okay, fair point. But it gets even more shady because there's usually like buyer protection from places like eBay, or I think Steam also has something similar. So it's fraud protection basically, so that you don't end up getting screwed. Like your keys don't get deactivated. I think that happened with Ubisoft at some point for one of their games. But anyway, G2A has this. It's called G2A Shield, but they make you pay for it.
Okay.
Which, considering that pretty much everywhere else offers that kind of protection for free, seems a little strange. So, Gearbox eventually comes to their senses, and they issue an ultimatum to G2A. They say this big list of demands that G2A has to meet or publicly say that they'll work towards, or else Gearbox won't release Bulletstorm via their system. Well, they didn't, so Bulletstorm got pulled.
Oh, okay, so basically it was just a mess of like trying to get this game on Steam, but then they went with this method that obviously didn't work in their favor, or through this partner distribution.
Ugh.
I mean, I obviously don't know like what the options are for like distributing Steam keys and all that, but I don't know why you would think that would be like the first option you would go to, unless there was like nothing else available or something.
Or unless it was cheaper.
Maybe. I mean, this is Gearbox. They've kind of been known to manage their finances a little iffy. Like I remember back with I think it was with Colonial Marines, they took some of the funds they got from Sega, publishing that throughout the years, but because the Aliens was in development hell for quite a long time, they used some of that promotional or that publishing money to go towards their Borderland games, I think. But then again, I'm not entirely sure if that was the case. That was like obviously a few years ago, so I'm just going by from what I vaguely remember. But yeah. So is the topic just discussing what would be the best method to avoid this kind of thing for distributing games on Steam?
Sure, we'll go with that. I just felt like...
Or was the topic
was,
how can Gearbox be so stupid?
Well, I mean, you could go on about Gearbox really. Besides their Borderland games, but I mean, it's kind of funny that you brought this up as the topic. To me, it just sounds like another news article thing. But I mean, if there is something we can talk about it, then we can talk about it.
Man, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what else is there to really say? I mean, we've explained how and why this was a bad idea for Gearbox, and then that was that. They had to pull down Bulletstorm because of it. Was Bulletstorm?
I should have specified, this is Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. This is like a new.
This is the this is just the re-release with I would say better frame rates, but usually that's just fine on PC. Like consoles got it re-released as well, but I don't think they were doing G2A publishing there, obviously.
Was the original Bulletstorm on Steam or on PC?
I feel like it did have a PC release before.
I'm fairly certain it did.
Yeah,
I just remember back at the Game Awards going, why is this getting remastered? It doesn't really need it. Oh, what? You can pre-order and get Dookie Nukie DLC.
because we're in the age of like where everything is getting re-released in like slightly better, qualities and all this stuff. Like that's people just want to play the games they played before, but on their new systems and stuff because it'll look better.
But like, Bulletstorm is a good game, but like, it's probably one of the most useless remasters I've seen.
More useless than God of War 4 or 3, I mean.
Yeah, I was about to say like 4.
No, 4 is the Data War game. Sorry, but no, I mean.
I keep
Well, then again-
forgetting that got remastered. I'm like, what?
It did. It did.
They don't even call it a remaster.
Other than
I don't
being
think
like 60 frames per second, I think that was the only thing that was marginally.
Wow, like Bulletstorm. Dookie Nukie doesn't count because you have to pre-order to get Dookie Nukie. Also, I saw footage of that, and Duke Nukem says sorry. That's not Duke Nukem!
What's this Duke Nukem thing for Bulletstorm?
Duke Nukem just replaces the player character, and there's scenes that just don't fit because his dialogue is like sometimes different than the other guys who just like have their lines intact while Duke's is just like, man, what's wrong with your face?
I don't know. That still sounds kind of funny. Is it John St. John doing the voice?
Yeah, he's
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. I mean, it does sound entertaining at least. But yeah, I mean.
But at the same time, it's like why? Why not try actual Duke again instead of,
because
I
everybody.
don't want to say testing the waters. You're offering this as pre-order DLC.
Well, Duke Nukem Forever got a really bad rep, even though.
Oh yeah, that's why you can, try again and not have 3D Realms develop it.
Well, initially develop it, but yeah. But
Platinum Games, Duke Nukem.
I can't even imagine that really, but
There's no way.
it could be.
Like, what
yeah,
the
I don't
fuck?
know.
Why?
Hey, they've done a bunch of stuff. Who knows?
They've done a third-person shooter, but a first-person shooter? Oh, well, then again, Duke's been third-person shooter, but this hasn't been a great track record.
But yeah, I mean,
I really don't know what else to add, because this is kind of just like...
yeah, I mean,
It's just ridiculous.
it is.
Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know if they did their research. It was like... Or if they knew, but they just wanted to be scumbags.
Well,
This day and
it's-
age, like...
Well, it's easy to accuse people of that these days, especially if it's something like Gearbox, where it's like, oh, they made Duke Nukem Forever and Alien Skull and Marines, no wonder, but
Gearbox released Duke Nukem Forever. Like, Aliens are justified in that, but Duke Nukem is more like, get it out of the door type of deal instead of
yeah, like
actually working on it.
Yeah, finally
Marines, so no excuse.
yeah, finally get it out, and yeah, I'd actually argue that Coin Marines was way worse than Duke Nukem Forever. So, yeah, I mean, whether or not Gearbox, I mean, either way, Gearbox kind of screwed up with this. Whether they were ignorant and didn't realize, oh wait, these are probably not a good idea in order to distribute our Steam keys for this, or they're just like, oh, you know what, let's just try this and see if we can pull it off, and then it's like, oh wait, oops, I'm not. Either way, it's like, eh. Hopefully they'll learn their lesson. I know it's hard to probably believe considering the mistakes they made before, but hopefully they'll at least find a means to get their remastered Bulletstorm game back on Steam for everyone to, enjoy if you haven't played Bulletstorm before. I mean, well, I remember playing the demo back then of Bulletstorm, and that was it. I actually haven't gotten the game before, so...
I played
Who
Duty
knows?
Calls, but I never played Bulletstorm.
I played both.
I played both years.
I could barely run duty calls because that was a PC only thing.
Even like my old desktop back then could barely run it too. But yeah, it's funny that you played like the parody game promotion
and
like,
Bullets
ad thing.
And I did play Bullets.
Well, yeah, you've played the actual game, so
It's on my list.
What, Dookie Nukie Edition or the original?
The original, but not on PC, because that's apparently still broken.
oh.
Ooh. Well, Full Clip is on console, and you do have a PS4. It does run 60 there.
Great. I'll consider getting that version while I transition us into viewer questions. And we have one from Horseplay, who asks, for lack of a better term, what are some of you guys' weak points that make you immediately interested in a game? I guess you could call it a soft spot.
Yeah, that's the term I would go for.
Regardless of if the game itself is good or not. I can name a couple of mine. Because the entire reason that I played any of the Guilty Gear games was when I heard the soundtrack. So if a game has a really good soundtrack, and it's not just like rock-style soundtracks, if there's like a really good classical or jazz soundtrack to a game, I'll get interested in it. Like, for example, Skullgirls. One of the things that convinced me to give that a shot was hearing some of the like really jazzy songs in it. I ended up not really liking it, but the music was good.
I've heard that game's good though, but
I just didn't like the fighting system in it.
Yeah, well, I haven't played it yet, so I don't know. But yeah, the music in that game is, I believe it was done by Michiru Yamane, who did Castlevania, so that's definitely a well-known positive of that game. So I can definitely see that. I'm trying to think of what mine would be.
Oh, well, I'll say mine while you continue trying to think of one.
All right, you had another one?
Yeah, I have another. Really cryptic trailers. Or just hints of a game.
Would Death Stranding count?
I don't even know what to consider that.
It's confusing.
It's definitely the most vague in like slowly revealing what's it even about. It's almost like David Lynch-ish.
I remember the reveal for like RE7 and going.
Yeah, I was gonna
like,
mention that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's a horror game, but what? Like, it was slow, and it's just like, and since this was like for PlayStation, people would have thought it's like, wait, is PT coming back? Is Silent Hill's really happening? Is this Kojima's game? No, but instead it was Resident Evil, and that caused people to flip their shit, especially considering the previous installments that had happened prior to 7. It's just like, whoa, back up, what?
And actually, I have another example that just happened recently. Because Nippon Ichi Software posted a 5-second teaser of something. No one really knows what. It's just a shot of a really dark bedroom. It's 5 seconds long, and the time code at the end of the video is 5 hours, 55 minutes, 55 seconds. I think I see something moving in the background a little bit, but there's really not much to go on it, and people are speculating the hell out of it already.
Okay, I think I have one, or at least an idea of one that I have. With me, I kind of like it when games kind of do a tongue-in-cheek thing of breaking the fourth wall or referencing something. You know, as long as it's not, you know, like too blatant or obnoxious, but if it's just done right in a way where it's actually clever and written in a smart way, where it's like, you know, just has a little wink towards the people playing, that gives me a laugh. Like, I can think of like several games where it's like, where I enjoyed that aspect because it's like, oh, I get it, type of thing.
For me, one recent example definitely falls with the Yakuza games, where it was like I didn't know too much, but I remember like seeing maybe like a cutscene or intro thing during Cinematech on G4 back then. But I think this was back when it hadn't been localized yet, and it was still just called Ryoga Gotoku. And I'm just like, what's this realistic shit? Japan. I was a kid. I was just asking weird questions while seeing that. But years later, I just hear about the Yakuza franchise and stuff, or at least, you know, before 5 and whatever. I'm like, what exactly is it? And then I just see a bit of it, or just like examples where it's like serious, and then all of a sudden it's just batshit crazy silliness, and it somehow juggles that really well. I think that's what drew me in. I don't think every game will do that for me, but Yakuza definitely did with that, where it's just like, oh, super serious with some, and then you go to beat 'em up and you're just picking up bikes and shit. Or I don't know, it's just really, really bizarre. Other examples? I can't think of any. Usually, like, especially if I'm trying to think of like IPs that I'm not familiar with, or just brand new stuff, you know, where it's like most big franchises, it's like, I guess I'll go in and whatever and evaluate that way, but usually standalone's a little tougher.
I thought of another one, and this is just getting me interested in a game, mind you, but if you have really good cover art, like even if it has like nothing to do with the game, like I'll give you guys an example. The cover to Skyblazer on the SNES, it's just this incredibly 90s looking dude with big ass shoulder pads, glowing, and light is shooting out of him at these cloaked, are those like dreadlock goatees those guys have? But anyway, the light's shooting out at them, and there are fire pillars in the corner, and Skyblazer right across the top of it. I was a kid, and I saw that in a rental store, and I thought, okay, I gotta try this.
Yeah. I like the 90s sunglasses that they're all wearing, too.
Well, you know, sunglasses are a big part of... Did this take place in ancient times, or... I have no idea.
It was some fantasy world, from what I recall.
I've played the game, and I have no idea.
I don't remember him glowing orange like he was on fire, like he was Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four or something, but...
He might be about to use the ability where it turns into a phoenix, or when he becomes, like, invulnerable. Oh, and, another thing, I'm surprised I didn't mention it yet, because I mentioned it earlier in this podcast, but if you have a really unique art style to your game, I'll get into it. Like, that got me into, a bunch of Vanillaware games.
Yes.
Drawn to Death, Mad World.
Okami for me.
That's another good one. Oh, and, Bastion. That too.
And Transistor, the game that they made afterwards.
Alright, I played that recently. I should continue playing that. Maybe then I'll actually have a game to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, you should. I've played through it. It's good.
I don't think I have anything else to add to this. It's really a tough question.
It is hard to like pinpoint like exactly what is your soft spot when it comes to like really liking something in a game or in games in particular.
Like, my interest really varies. Like, come on, I rented Virtual Quest for fucking some reason. I think that speaks volumes.
Maybe one of them is morbid curiosity.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I remember seeing a demo of this Best Buy and knowing what the fuck is a Virtual Quest, and then I go to it and say, this was a mistake, but still beat it. You know, there was a time where I thought playing Mass Effect Andromeda was a bigger regret than Virtual Quest. That's gone now. I'll just say that feeling's gone. Virtual Quest is still bad.
If you'd like to hear that podcast about it,
then I don't even remember which podcast I talked about that for, because I don't want to remember. That game was supposed to have a sequel.
Yeah.
So was
Yeah, look where that went. Virtua Fighter ain't happening anymore.
Well, I might as well mention the one that Horseplay listed, which included character creation, unarmed fighting, super moves, hypersaturated colors, warp speed, campy dialogue or voice acting, good pixel art, actually really smooth pixel animation is another soft spot of mine, and slap bass.
Huh. What's an example of slap bass in video games?
I can name one.
Well, you've played Jet Set Radio Future?
Not very much of it yet.
Well, I know you've heard the soundtrack, at least.
Some of it, yeah.
The bass line in Funky Dealer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Damn, I'm pretty sure I've already used that song to end the podcast, so I can't use it again. Well, on that note, if anyone wants to send us a question to answer on the podcast, you can ask us in the comments on the YouTube upload or on the site posting. You can also ask us on Twitter or on Facebook, facebook.com/RiverCityGamers. For now, though, we go into video updates, and you know what, Unreal, you're leading off this time.
Okay. Well, this is good because I've really got nothing right now. I'm actually thinking ahead, though. I mean, aside from the collab that me and SCR still have to, write, I'm thinking ahead to, if I go to Anime North. I might still do a video for when I do it, but it may sound like a really bad idea. I could, record everything using nothing but my smartphone. I mean, it may seem like a bad idea, obviously, but, that means I wouldn't have to lug my camcorder around.
Depends on, how much you can record on your smartphone and what the quality is and all that, I'd imagine.
I think the only problem is, I probably can't get a good-looking zoom.
Well, at the very least, you could probably just do what I do and just use your phone for taking pictures.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but considering my cosplays, I wonder if, I mean, it's still something to think about if I even decide to do an Anime North video. I still even know if I'm going to actually be able to go, but it's looking likely that I will be able to. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing, say, pictures with my phone, but video, I don't know. Maybe I could do some, mixing stuff. If my phone's just right there, I'll just do some stupid Vine stuff, even though Vine's dead. Not counting the unreleased convention videos that I still have not edited and, put out. It's really just down to writing for that collab review. I've got no other plans right now. Just been kind of busy all across, especially potentially maybe getting a second real-life job, so I don't think that's going to help much. So that's it for me on that end.
I'll go next then. Tony Hawk 5.
Oh boy.
And that's it. Beyond that, I have a strumming of the bass line I'm going to do coming up soon. There's something big I know I'm forgetting, and it's not the collab. God, I can't remember what it is. Oh well. Tony Hawk 5, maybe end of April, hopefully. I don't know, I recorded way too much footage. God, that's gonna bug the shit out of me. What was I going to say?
Maybe I'll just come back to you if I go.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, well, as of this podcast recording, I've just pretty much released my next kickback on Shantae Hatsune Hero finally, and of course, since Ukulele is pretty much coming out really soon, I'm pretty sure that's going to be my next kickback review. So there's that, and in terms of my more bigger projects, I am going to be working on the next In Retrospect, and it's going to be on a trilogy of games that I've been looking forward to playing through and talking about. And I have so far I've recorded the first game. Just need to do the other two and then work on that. And then after that, it'll be some other things I've been wanting to bring back. Like I want to bring back Little Black Sea Interviews as another in between. As another video to bring in between my other stuff, because I've got some games planned up for that. Then I'm going to try and make the next They Made a sequel and continue the cycle there between all the other stuff. And it's bad enough that I have all this stuff, and I'm thinking of maybe trying to do some top 10 videos. I have ideas for those. I have a lot of ideas and planning to do for stuff that I want to do. It's just a matter of actually being able to put it all together and get it out there in a timely manner and in a scheduled manner. I'm gonna try and work on that. Like, I'm not gonna make any like big promises to see if I can actually do it, but I'm gonna try nevertheless. So here's hoping.
Well, I believe that takes us to the end of the podcast. So, wait, I remembered.
Of course.
So, I forgot that I owned this. But I'm going to get back to work soon on a book.
Oh?
A Lexa book.
Oh, right. You still haven't done part 2 of that.
Part 2 of 7. Or however
No.
long it's going to take.
Look forward to the 7-year saga of...
Hey, it's only been 4 months?
Well, if you get one out every 4 months, then that's like, what?
Speaking of which, did you
3?
talk about Michigan?
20XX. That brings us to the end of the podcast. So once again, I'm SCXCR.
I am Unreal.
I'm Blondeguygamer.
And I'm actually going to play some of the old Tony Hawk games, because I have to record footage for that.
At least it's a cleanser after 5, right?
It's like a vaccine for 5.
I'm going to be planning for Anime North 20XX. Just in time for Michigan.